Hey, I hope you guys like our intro.
My name is favorite band, actually.
You know this band?
No, I was saying it's Mike Clarke's definitely his favorite artist.
Welcome to Laser Review by Trotec. This is kind of our first episode of Laser Review. My name is Lev. I'm here with my laser friend, Don.
Hi, everyone.
Don Connell.
So glad you're here.
So I know we usually take Fridays to do our laser jam sessions. We wanted to kind of mix it up a little bit and have something different maybe every week. So we're probably going to do these hopefully at least once a month. The idea really behind it is to pretend like we're a brand new user, never seen a laser before, or even not even a user, just somebody who's interested in lasers, doesn't know much about lasers, answer their questions and do like a full walkthrough from the laser. And obviously we have some awesome laser experts across Canada. And without further ado, we have the best one.
Welcome, and Lev, my favorite band is when the guys are together hitting on the log, with the piece of wood, that's because that comes back to the days of,
I thought you're a Wu-Tang man, really. But...
yeah. We should say for anybody who's joining us in the chat, please, by all means, we would love if you could drop your own questions, any questions you have for Mike or myself or Lev in the chat. And obviously, say hello, let us know where you're watching from. We're so glad you decided to spend a little time with us today.
From Chile, Joburg. Wow, Johannesburg, South Africa. Our tech guy right across in the other room is from South Africa, Mr. Stephen Colley.
That's true.
So welcome. Tell us where you're from. Say hello. Ask lots and lots of questions. Oh, let me just bring in our super cam, which our man Miguel is manning the super cam. So he's gonna be Mike.
There he is.
Hey,
your face.
Welcome.
Hi, Amy. So we should say too, just to sort of speak to, I think what Lev was saying. We're really excited, I think, to keep doing the laser jam in the future. But I think also, there are some things going on in the world that maybe I won't name, but that are preventing us from being able to get out and see as many customers as we'd like to. So I think we're sort of hoping that maybe streams like this would be an opportunity for anybody who'd like to see a demo of a laser, whether it be a speed marker or a Speedy like we're doing today, or the large format like you can see behind Mike there that I think we'll be doing in the future. This is our chance to be able to get out and offer you a laser demo, while still being respectful of the fact that, we want you to be safe, we want to keep safe, and, this is an information resource for you, hopefully, that you can kind of, ask us questions or come back to on YouTube in the future.
Exactly. So, for the first run, we have the Speedy 300.
Yes.
Mike, if you want to maybe tell us about that particular machine, like how many watts? And it's a flex, I believe, right?
Yeah, this machine here is a flex system. It's an 80-watt CO2 and a 30-watt fiber laser, which work in conjunction, and both laser sources are permanently mounted inside the machine.
Miguel, can you give us a wide shot of that angle of that laser? Just kind of zoom out and show everyone what we're kind of working with. Thank you, Miguel. So that is the Speedy 300 Flex. Mike, go ahead. If you want to give us maybe a quick intro, like bed size. Why is Trotec really different? Why is this Flex machine really different from special exactly from the other machines?
Well, basically this is a 17-inch by 29-inch machine. Let's see if it's 74 by 43 in terms of our metric calculations. It has 7.8 inches with a 2-inch lens on its vertical height, up and down. And again, there is a solid table on the base, and then we have a cutting table that we've got sitting on top of the actual solid base. You'll notice that the lid is yellow. The reason that the lid is kind of a yellow-green is because it is a flex, and we need that yellow tinted cover to protect from bouncing of the fiber laser, as it could go through a clear piece of acrylic or a clear piece of glass and hit the user. So that's why this lid would be a little bit different than you would normally see on just a straight CO2 type system. So basically, this machine is using a 5G brushless servo motor, and your typically fastest running speed on this is 140 inches a second. Typically, you would see, on a glass tube laser, you're probably running in around the 40 inches. You're typically running a stepper motor system, so what you're looking at typically with a Trotec system. The typical type of people that are buying this equipment are production-oriented type people that are looking to produce a product very fast with good quality, and being able to produce at high speeds allows you to get more product per hour, which then increases your profit margin on the running time of the physical machine.
And how important is speed? I mean, you talk to lots of new users. Do they usually, is speed at the top of their list, or is it reliability? I mean, where do you put the speed of the laser?
Well, I think for a new user that's coming in, I think and this is why we always, we do demos, on-site demos, people come into the showroom, we all have to wear face masks and everything like that. But, I always tell people, and I mean, we'll get a laugh again, 30 years in the business, smile, laugh, and everything.
Where's my shot at tequila?
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing that I always stress to people is that, and I do lots of demos, I've dealt with a lot of people over the years, but when you're looking at a laser machine, if you're really looking to seriously get into the business of the laser machine, you really need to go and see the equipment firsthand. I mean, sometimes, we deal with people that are too far away, so we try to do an online demo, but I think you still get the basic elements out of the machine. And to go back to the original question is, do people consider speed an issue? Not really, because they really don't understand the laser to a certain degree, and how power relates to speed. And so I always tell people, if you can get into the showroom, if you can see the machines firsthand, I think you get a better appreciation. And I always tell people, people always, the first thing, I could have a really slow laser here and they would be impressed. Really, where speed becomes very important is when somebody walks in and says, I need 250 glasses done and I need them done within 2 days.
Yeah. Right.
And if it takes you, let's say it takes you 3 minutes to do a glass, well, you're maybe producing 15 an hour. Well, if you got to do 250, or say you got to do 300, you can see where speed now becomes a big concern. And I always say to people is that, people never complain about buying too much power, which reflects speed, but they always complain about not buying enough power. Okay. So when you're looking at a Trotec system, power becomes more of a critical input, because that can affect your speed, and your speed is dictated. It's like a car. I mean, you don't go out and buy a Jaguar or a Ferrari and put some minuscule, motor in it, right? Because people are buying it because they want to go fast. I mean, that's the whole idea behind getting the machine. And production is very important to people. It may not be important right now, when you first buy the machine, because you're sitting there going, well, I don't have a lot of orders. For most people, some people do. And again, that's why it's very important when you come in, because speed is related to the amount of power that's in the machine. I always tell people that, whether you buy a Speedy 300 or you buy a Speedy 360 or a Speedy 400, the quality of the engraving is the same. You know, you're not going to get a better image because you bought a bigger machine. What you're looking at buying is you're looking at buying a bed size, and you're looking at power in terms of the wattage of the system, which then relates to the amount how fast you can actually go. And when we get people in and they start seeing that, and we start experimenting with different materials, and they see that I have to slow the machine down to do certain applications, and I can go fast in other applications, I think then they start to appreciate what's going on. And you know, there's a lot of people, and everybody's different. And I'm not saying that everybody's going to go out and buy this machine as their first machine. But the people that buy the small machine with the low power, they typically come in very quickly after the fact saying, I can't make money, you know, with this machine. It's too slow. The bed is too small. And I should have taken that money and invested it. And some people can't see that at the beginning, and they need to buy that small machine to appreciate that. But other people, when they do come in and see the equipment, they get to appreciate, you know, why power means something in terms of the laser power to the speed of the machine.
Yeah.
Because go ahead, Don.
Well, I was just going to say is whenever I try and explain it exactly like Mike is saying, I always think of it like a haircut. It's like if you have too much, you can always back it off. But if you know what I mean? If you just shave everything off right away and go for the most extreme, like the low, 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 you can't put it back kind of thing. Having exactly nobody. Yeah. I mean, you know, quarantine's been tough for me. Nobody complains, like you said, about having too much power. But what I would ask is, you know, you sort of touched on bed size. How do you go about sort of, you know, dictating what might be the right bed size for someone? Is it sort of the bed size that relates to the particular power that they're looking for? Is it more to do with the application they want to do? How do you find the right machine bed size wise?
Well, sometimes it depends on the customer, right? Like yesterday, yesterday morning, I had people in for a demo, and they're going to open up a home shop business. Well, you know, the home shop business is going to be in the basement. Well, you know, that will typically limit a certain amount of machine that's going to go in that location. Right. So sometimes it's the size may be dictated by the location. Somebody else I had the other day. Most of the parts they were doing were small. Well, you know, maybe a big machine isn't as important as a small machine. And again, maybe we can go through the difference, but you know, in terms of timing. But what you find is that the machines are wider than they are, like they're wider this way than they are this way. Yeah, and the one reason for that is because your speed is so much faster when you're going left to right a lot of times than when you are going this way. Like if I can put a row in and do 10 of them this way, it's a lot faster going left to right most of the time. If I put another row in, it's still it's just another row at the same speed as a first row. So, you know, the big machines allow me now to take advantage sometimes of faster speeds because I can go faster left to right than I can go deep. Now, some people want a bigger machine because they want to do bigger pieces, right? So, you know, a sign shop might be different. So if somebody comes in from a sign shop, they might say, well, you know, I want a certain size machine because I need to do letters that are a certain size. But if somebody comes in and they're doing, let's say they're doing coasters, you know, as an example, well, you know, the coasters are you know, smaller in nature, so they may not look at a bigger machine as important as a smaller machine, and they may put more money into the power of the laser as opposed to the size of the bed. So again, and that's why I say it's always really important for people to come into the office to see this or to see an online demo, because when you see this, I think you see the production process in a bit of a different light, and you get a better appreciation for how fast things can be done. So if I go to job control, I think you said I just have to.
Yeah, Mike. If I was going to ask if you can give us a very quick demo, even like engraving. I know you have some material there, or wood and acrylic, just to show people how the laser works from beginning to end. I'm going to pop your screen up here. So Mike's using Corel Draw, but you guys can use Illustrator. I mean, we had Rhino 3D a week ago. We had a webinar on that on our YouTube channel. So. I mean, the sky's the limit in terms of design software that you can use. And Mike, can you explain why people can use any design software?
Yeah. So let me just set this up, and then I'll go that one step further, and then we'll take a look at that. First of all, make sure we're always in RGB, which is what I'm working in here, and then going to
and again, for those that don't know, RGB, it's red, blue, and green. It's a color palette. I mean, if you're brand new to lasers, that's why we want to explain everything. But make sure to ask lots of questions in the chat. If you're having issues with your laser, you're not sure what you're doing wrong, we can try to help you out on this live stream. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
That's fine. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, whoops.
Don't bend our flag.
I won't bend the flag. Exactly. So the way the laser works is, think of the laser as you would a laser printer. Whatever's black is going to be etching, engraving, and then whatever's white isn't going to do anything. So, and I think when people look at it that way, it's a little easier for them to understand how the laser works. So when we're engraving, we're going back and forth, left to right, and we're processing either from the top down or from the bottom up in terms of the way we process the image. The engraving is always done first, and the cutting process is always done last. In the case here, I've got a red line. That red line is red. That red line is red, and it is in a hairline format, line thickness, and the laser needs to see that line thickness to know that that's a cutting line. Because if I was to come in here and make that line black and make it thicker, then it is a vector so-called cut line, but because it's a thicker line, the laser is going to consider that to be an that you want to engrave it as opposed to cutting it. So all you're really going to do here is you're going to go file print. So this is the beauty of the system. I can output from any software that I want. I could be Microsoft Word, it could be WordPad, it could be Corel Draw, it could be AutoCAD. Really what you're looking for, if it's Photoshop, traditionally, as far as I understand, Photoshop is only a raster output program. So if you're doing photographs or you're doing logos like the flag on here, you can send that out of Photoshop, but you can't send any vector output out of Photoshop. So then you'd have to go back to Illustrator and probably output everything from there. I'm running Corel Draw, and Corel Draw can output basically vector information and raster information, so I can do both processes from that program. So typically what most people are running from is they're running from Corel Draw or they're running from Illustrator, because those two programs will allow you to output vector and raster information, and they do have a lot of functionality in there for doing a lot of different techniques. You know, whether you're drawing logos or you're doing multiples or anything, that can all be basically done from this program. So from within the print command, I then have a preference window here that I can go into, and from in here I can actually then create some presets for that item that's going over to the machine. I'll do this relatively fast. I'm going to minimize the job size, so my job size becomes the size of the actual image that's in the drawing here. I'm going to click in here. I'm going to put in a power.
So just as a real quick aside, this sort of tying into what Mike was talking about before, the laser sort of understands the things in your artwork based on the colors that you assign it. So as he sort of said, you can see that the little black bar at the top there, everything that's black, he's telling the laser there, oh, everything that's black, I'd like you to engrave it using the CO2 laser with a particular power and speed. And I'm sure he'll probably come back to that if he likes. And then everything that's red, exactly as he talked about, is going to be a cut. So I want you to cut it with this much of the power and this much of the speed. And you have 16 different options there that you can sort of pre-program into a job ahead of time. And then as Mike is saying, you can sort of save that as well, so that if this is a job you're going to redo for a customer over and over, you can always come back to it, in the future if you need it, kind of thing.
Yeah, the colors are more like options, right, Mike? Like power options. More, you shouldn't think of them as colors. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
We got a quick question here from Ratna from Australia. Is Trotec Mac compatible? So, Mike can definitely answer this question. It's a question we get all the time. Right now, it's for PC only, but so what people usually do is they have a Mac where they design the software, then they have like a small laptop or something that runs the laser. But Trotec is releasing a new software that's going to be web-based. Hopefully by the end of this year. So in the next couple months, just keep an eye out. And that's going to be web-based. So yes, it'll be Mac compatible. I don't know, Mike, if that's right.
Well, yeah, you can do it that way. I do run Mac myself. What I do, I run Parallels, which is a virtualization program that runs under the Mac, and I run Windows and Mac simultaneously together. So I can actually run the laser with a Mac laptop. But I need to have Parallels there, and I need to have Windows running on that Parallels program, and then I need to have, CorelDRAW or Illustrator or Adobe Reader or however I'm sending to the laser machine my output. So again, you can do that. People have done that, and again, I do it all the time. But you're right. You have to have some version of Windows that's running the actual laser itself, and you're outputting from the Windows program.
One thing too to keep in mind that is with the Trotec laser, as sort of Mike and Lev alluded to, you will have to have a computer that's hooked up to the laser itself. So even if you have just a very, if you do all of your designing on your, Mac desktop or whatever it is, your very powerful iMac, whatever it might be, and then you just have, like I said, a very simple PC hooked up to the laser itself, you could just bring your files over to that little PC to run the laser on a USB stick or whatever you might do. As Mike says, like he does all of his designing on his Mac laptop and then, just brings it to the PC that's hooked up to whatever laser he wants to use and he's good to go, kind of thing.
No, I hooked the Mac laptop right into the 300.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Even better.
Yeah. So I can do that. I've done that before. So that's typically not an issue. So again, you can see on the left here, these are all the presets that we've created or get loaded in automatically with the installation of the software. The nice thing is we do sell a lot of different materials, and those materials are all their power and speed functions. Their settings are all loaded in when you load the software in. And then as we create new materials, we start selling new material, those settings are available to import in. And again, you can import a file in here, bring in a new setup file if you want. Just to go quickly through, the way the laser works is that most people want to go at 100% speed, and they adjust the power accordingly for the speed. So if I'm running at 100% speed and 100% power, and I'm not generating enough depth, either through cutting or through engraving, the only way I can generate more depth or more power per se is to slow the machine down. Okay, so if I'm running at 100% speed and 100% power, and I want to go, let's say for example, let's say I'm engraving something, and I want to go double the depth, I'd have to go to 50% speed. Okay, so typically that's what I'm going to do there. And this goes back to the power scenario. If I'm running a 60-watt machine, and my 60-watt machine means I have to slow the machine down to 50 speed to generate the appropriate amount of depth. I can get 50% more throughput on the machine if I go to 120-watt laser. Okay, so there's a little bit of it's not perfect model, but typically when you're running 120 watt, you're going twice as fast as a 60 watt. machine. Now, if I'm engraving Lamicoid plastic all day, I may not need the amount of power that's available. And again, that's why I always tell people, when you come to the office, have a relatively good mind of what you're looking to do. You know, if you're looking to cut 1/2-inch acrylic, you know, that's what you want to see done. That's what you want to talk about. You don't want to buy a 60-watt machine and you're cutting 1/2-inch acrylic, because it's just not the appropriate machine for that application. But if somebody's engraving Lamicoid plastic all day, they might not need as high of a wattage machine as somebody that's cutting, you know, 1/2-inch acrylic. You can always dial, as we said earlier, you can always dial the power back. So if you have 120 watts, you can always cut back to engrave the Lamicoid. But if I'm engraving Lamicoid on this machine, I'm normally running at 100 speed and normally about 70 power on an 80 watt.
You brought up a good point there, Mike, and this is a question that I've heard a lot from customers. And again, guys, just to stress to the people in chat, especially if you're just joining us, there's no question too basic. That's what we're here for. How do you determine power versus thickness? So if you have a particular thickness of a material that you want to cut, you know, how are you sort of determining the amount of wattage that you would want, say, in that CO2 laser, for example?
Well, probably if you were, probably the easiest thing to do, and actually probably something that we should probably have, is excuse me, just going to get a sip here of my coffee here. We do this all the time with acrylic, is that if you take a rectangle and get, let's say, get a 1 millimeter piece of acrylic, let's say you get a 1 millimeter, just as hypothetical, and let's say assume that hypothetically that's a setting right there to cut through 1 millimeter. Now, if I go to 2 millimeter acrylic, that's probably going to be 2, right? If I go to 3 millimeter, that's going to be 1. If I go to 4 millimeter, it's going to be like, so you can see what's going on here. Once you've got your 1 millimeter setting, then it's kind of easy to sort of, then, like, if you've got a 3 millimeter setting and then you go to 6 millimeter, then you've got to go half the speed, right? So again, if you've done the first, then doing the second one is relatively easy. Now, when it comes to engraving, we're not running like a CNC machine where I can say, because this is a pretty common question, everybody says, well, how do I go down 15 thou? Well, you can't tell the machine to go 15 thou. We have to adjust the power and speed to allow us to reach that certain level. But if you've got a power, and let's say, for example, that 100 power and 100 speed gives me 10 thou. If I want to go 20 thou, then I would lower my speed down to 50%, right? So again, sometimes you can do those types of bars where you're setting a certain preset based on a thickness, and anytime you want to adjust it, then you can just use the math. Because anytime if I'm going at 140 inches a second and I go to 50% speed, now I'm going at 70 inches per second, right? So, you know, that's the thing to remember, is that these numbers are percentages. Right. So it's 1% of 140 inches, right? So this is 100% is full speed. And the thing to remember is that if I'm doing a really small image, I never get to 100% speed, right? Because the machine it starts to accelerate, and then all of a sudden it's looking to the end of that line saying, well, I have to start slowing down now. And you may never get to 100% speed, right? So again, sometimes this speed is not achieved until you are moving at a certain amount of distance on your X, which is your left to right motion. Okay. So again, these are sort of things that I do. I normally have a black square I send over for engraving that I test with, and then I have a red 1-inch box that I normally send over to test for cutout. And again, if you set up a 3 millimeter setting, if you go to 6 millimeter, just double your power, which is halving your speed, right? So,
Mike, we have a quick question here from, I'm gonna I'm going to try to pronounce it right. Sathiaceline, sorry, butchered your name there. Is there a list of materials that cannot be used on a laser machine? And I know Don actually brought that. This is the web page for materials that are not suitable. Mike, is there anything like that you always tell people that, that should not be used?
Well, I normally go to that to that list that we have on the web. I mean, certainly the most common one that we've seen over the years is anything that's PVC based, right? And again, that's doing two things. That's creating a chlorine gas, which theoretically in large concentrations and a long exposure can kill you, or create health issues. The other problem is that, as I understand, the chlorides will react with the air and create hydrochloric acid. And what the hydrochloric acid dust does is it settles down on the machine, on the metal on the machine, and it starts to eat away at the coating on the machine. And it's interesting because if you go into, I have people that do it. They understand the ramifications. And I have people that do it, and you go into their machine after a certain amount of time, whether it be 4 years or 6 years, and you'll see rusting in the machine, from the actual from that dust that's being settled down.
And that's any laser basically. If you
anytime you create
laser heat onto PVC, it'll release that. So we strongly advise not to use any PVC. And if you're ordering supplies that are not, first of all, any Trotec supplies are PVC free. If you're getting supplies from Amazon or whatever, make sure that you ask the manufacturer for what's called MSDS sheets, or material safety data sheet. And a lot of the times, like, we brought in the chalkboard material, and the original chalkboard was PVC, and we asked the manufacturer, do you have something that's not PVC? And they did. It was a little bit more expensive, but we made sure that it's not PVC based. So just a tip for you guys, you can always look for other suppliers that are not PVC based.
I also, just as an addendum to that too, following the question from Ceylon, I also posted the materials that can be used with the laser separately. So if you're curious about that, just sort of from the other side of things, what laser is suitable for what material, either CO2 or fiber, that link is in there as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. You can go right back to, yes. Yeah, no, no, click share screen again, Mike. Okay. And share your entire screen.
There you go.
And then just go right to
Corel.
Perfect. Yeah, and then just go to Corel.
Come on, Corel. Come on up. There we go.
Okay.
No, I know what's going on. It's because I got the print window open.
Oh. There you go.
No.
Oh, you just had it.
No, I know it comes up, but I keep losing it because the focus is going. I'm going to have to be quick on
just press Alt-Tab and you'll get it.
Let's see if I can do that. There we go. Thank you.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay, so
how many years in the industry?
Oh yeah. Alt-Tab has escaped me.
I was waiting for that.
All right, you can. I just want to do something here for all the folks at home, so I'm stopping my sharing my screen. One for love.
What is that? What are you doing?
Okay, I'm going back. Sorry, I digress.
We used to have trolls in gaming that used to say,
exactly,
control F10, and that just quits your
Alt F4,
Alt F4, Control Delete.
Yeah. So again, that's the difference between power and speed. And again, it's really that's the very critical for people to when they're evaluating a machine is to, because everybody has a finite, well, not a finite, but they have a certain amount of money that they can work with. And what you're doing is you're sort of, you're choosing the platform, but you also have to choose the power. So you don't want to choose a large platform, but not have enough money to drive that platform with the appropriate amount of power. So again, sometimes people may have to get a smaller machine to be able to carry the amount of power that's needed to be able to produce the product at the time that they need to do it at. Because if somebody comes into me and says, I have to produce this product every minute, well, it makes my job very easy, right? Because then I can adjust. We can look at a machine, and then we can adjust the power, and based on that time, I can then try to get that job down to a minute. And sometimes the bigger machine, because the run is longer, then I can get the power. I can get the speeds down.
Mike, so we got a great question from Ratna as well. She says, I'm interested in the Speedy 300 with Flex. Is it possible to just buy a CO2 version and upgrade for Flex later on the same machine?
Yes, you can do that if you want. And again, really, you buy the CO2, and then if you want to go up to the fiber laser to make it a Flex, then it's just a matter of typically having a technician come in on site, and then they can put the fiber laser in. There will be some extra cost. That would be because you're going to have to change the lid, and because you have to replace the lid because you're going to have a clear lid. They're going to have to put the other lid in. There's going to be some extra time and travel and that's involved there. But yeah, you can easily do that. That's not a big deal, and you can do that on site. And we've had people do that. We've got people that are doing a lot of Thermark now, and then they get tired of buying the paste and doing the labor. They'd rather just have the fiber laser do the work for them, and they've upgraded that way. So just
to explain, the Thermark is the spray. If you're doing any kind of metal engraving, like stainless steel engraving, you can't just engrave with a CO2 laser. So you need like a Thermark spray, or I forgot the other
tape or
tape. So you spray it, but it's obviously it's more costly. It's a lot more time to put it on, let it sit, engrave it, wash it, back and forth. So that's the Thermark tape. There's also a good question, Mike. Is there a job costing module for calculating cost of a job? And also, is there an industry benchmark for what one can charge for a job? I think, we get this question all the time. I mean,
so let's send the job over, and then we'll take a look at it. Okay?
Perfect. I'll come back to this question.
Yeah. So again, we just just quickly go through this. We got the number. You could run multiple passes if you want. Do I want the air assist on for the cut? Do I want the table to move? Sometimes you might have a product where you've got two different heights you want to go to, so I can have the machine, the table actually move automatically to a separate height on a different color. So again, there are a couple of other settings here.
Sorry, can you just quickly mention about air assist? What is the air assist, and why would people need it?
Well, the air assist is there for two reasons. One is it's to blow out the flame when you're actually cutting. Right. So if I'm cutting wood, I'm going to generate a certain amount of flame. So the air assist is there to try to mitigate the amount of flaming that happens, because you're going to get burning. It's there to push the material through the cut, to the kerf of the cut, and blow the flame out. And then we also use it because the air will flush the optics to a certain degree. So sometimes you may actually have this on while you're engraving to keep the optics clean. So if you're working with something that generates a lot of dust, say rubber stamps, you may have the air on while you're engraving, just to try to keep the amount of dust not coming into the and contaminating the lens. Typically, I like to keep it off, because sometimes the air going on there will sort of reduce the amount of burn that can happen, or can cause some crystallization when you're engraving. So again, it's a bit of a trial and error. So typically I'll run off on engraving, and I'll turn on for cutting. Okay. And again, you can adjust that. Again, you may want to have that on while you're engraving. It just depends. Certain the 360 and the 400, we can adjust the amount of air flowing through from the laser itself, which really helps out. And is a really good feature for those typical machines. I'll keep this relatively straightforward. I'm normally running at 500 DPI. Order dithering is normally what I'm using when I'm just using black and a red cut. Just a couple of things here. Quick print means if I send quick print, if I send the job over to the laser will start engraving right away. Okay, so I don't have to go into job control and initiate the engraving from job control. If I go quick print, the job will go directly to the laser and then start running automatically. Auto position is I can set a certain location on that bed to go to start engraving if I want. I'm going to leave it off because I'm going to go into job control and then just do a quick movement there. We got to figure some stuff out. Enhanced geometries basically means that the machine is going to work with the Bezier curve, so my curves are going to be a bit smoother. I'm going to say okay. I'm going to go file print.
I think it's worth noting, just as a, like I said, Mike is he's just flying over it here really fast for the sake of the demo, but you know, just like a piece of design software also, there's a lot of little fine tuning that you can do going forward with your files and with your settings. It's not necessary that, excuse me, that you know everything necessarily right off the bat just to get the laser working, but you know that for those who are interested, there is a lot of sort of little details that you can dig into, you know, to get exactly the outcome that you're looking for, if there's a really specific technique or something that you're looking to achieve.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say I did that 1 hour video on the job control, like on the features just in that job material setting.
Yeah.
You know, I've gone through everything in there. So if you really want to see it in depth, I think you have. Did you?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to pull that up. So, guys,
Yeah.
if you go to YouTube, you don't have to go to our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, type Trotec. First of all, Trotec Job Control, and that is, we have like an in-depth webinar right here that we did with John. It's about almost an hour and a half long, just on job control and all its features. So we go really in depth. If you type in Trotec Corel Draw. We have lots of stuff. Like this is Mike's default settings video that he mentioned, and we have a basics webinar for Corel Draw. Same with Illustrator, same with Inkscape, same with AutoCAD and Rhino. So we have basics for you guys if you want.
And even
I just did one though, Lev. I did one like about 2 months ago, where I did it was like an hour video. It's on my YouTube channel.
Yeah. Let me try to find it. Sorry, Don, were you going to say something?
Yeah, FME Clarke.
As long as you're on the Trotec YouTube channel too, there is even a video there about finding the perfect laser settings for whatever material you're using, especially if it's something that's you've never used before in your laser.
It's right there, yeah.
We've got a great video there for finding your settings.
If you type in Mike Clarke on YouTube and find his channel here, this is what he's talking about, working with the job control material database.
Yeah, again, I thought you would have copied that one and put it on.
I will. I didn't get a chance to, but I'll actually add that to our YouTube channel as well.
If you want to add that in there, because I take you through every little feature, why you would use teaches you how to back up the database and import different things, and why you use auto, why you don't use auto, and you know, so there's a lot of stuff in there and it's just, you know, nobody's taught. I'm just sort of going straight through it. So
yeah, well, I'll repost it for you guys on our YouTube channel. Sorry, Mike, if you could share your screen again. I think I lost you there.
Yep. So now I'm in job control. On the right-hand side here, is this window here is reflecting a folder on your computer, and I think a question that somebody asked was, how do they back up this folder, right? So to back up that folder, if you go to Settings, Options, the spool path is where those files are being stored. So if you go to Program Data, Trotec Job Control 11.3 Spool, all the files that are here are in that folder right there.
Yeah, I just pulled it up. So we asked people to send questions ahead of time, and this was from Bill Elliott from Mike's hometown of Orangeville, Ontario.
Yep.
So this was the question: where and what is the file that has my product engraved settings so that I can make a backup?
Yeah, so it's a TSF file. They'll be all loaded in that spool directory, and some people will actually share that directory out if you want to send files from another computer to that spool directory that's running to the computer that's running the laser. Then that's what you need to share out so that you can send that over. So again, that's very important and you can change that if you want. You don't necessarily have to have that that pass statement, but if you change it, you have to tell the software where to look, because all the files in here are reflected in that folder there. So again, now I'm sorting here. Again, you can sort by job name, you can sort by date, you can sort by resolution. You can come in, you can show all, so it shows everything. And again, if you want to, I'm going to go by date. And you can see that this is I'm sorting from the newest one down, so you can see 8/20/8/20. I sent this one earlier. This was sent yesterday, and this was sent the day before. So again, it's all sorting by date. I'm going to grab this job and I'm going to bring it out onto the desktop. Now, this crosshair here is the red dot pointer on the laser head. You'll notice here that my page size, my job size is exactly the size of the object that I'm working with. And I've done that on purpose. If I go back to Corel and I go file, you'll see that this is being done on a 12x12 page, but it's only, the page size is only the size of the object. And I like to do that because Corel Draw will not process directly right to the edge of the page. It's always going to be 5 thou less. AutoCAD is 10 thou. I can't remember what Illustrator is, but if you do a 12x12 page and you make a 12x12 box, that box won't go over to the laser software because Corel won't let that go over, because that object is theoretically out of bounds. So what we do is we say minimize the job size, and that allows me to have the job go over to the size of the object itself. Now when I'm creating, I've got a page size that's exactly the size of the cut box that I'm going to generate here. Okay. Now you'll notice here that if I come in here and I make my engraving, let's say it's 100 power, 100 speed, and I say update, the laser is giving me basically a time to do that job. Okay, so somebody's asking about how do we figure out the costing of the job. So the costing of the job here is basically 1 minute and 22 seconds. Let's assume we use $2 a minute for our time of the laser. So that basically is 1.5 minutes, say. So when we're figuring out the cost of our job, you know, we've got a lot of costing there. We've got handling, we've got packaging, we've got everything. But in that formula is what is the time that we're running on the laser machine itself? Well, that's 1.5 minutes. So that's basically $3 to engrave that product if we're using a $2 a minute formula.
And you would never, like, if there's like a 10-minute job, you would never price. I mean, from your experience, Mike, it would usually be like a half an hour minimum, right? Or like a minimum setup fee. Like, you won't just, if somebody comes to you and says, you know, can you engrave my phone? And it's only like 3 minutes, you're not going to charge them for that 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, you're going to, again, you're right. I mean, this is what everybody always, you know, fights with, because, you know, it's the same argument we've used for years and years and years. You know, when I was a kid, you know, running a pantograph back in the early 70s, is that we limit the amount of choices that the customer has, you know, whether it be fonts, because the problem is that if I go to somebody and say, you know, you can choose whatever font you have, they could be there for 2 hours trying to figure out what font looks nice, right? And if you don't believe me, you know, have somebody come in and do a job for them and have them stand there and pick a font. I mean, you know, you'll spend a whole bunch of time. So yeah, you're right. Setup charge has to be figured into the cost of what you're doing. And certain things you may not do just because it may take too long, or you don't know the product. And we've talked about that before, where you know, if you're doing something you don't understand, you've never used before, you may want to ask for 2 pieces as opposed to 1, right? So again, you know, that's always important that a setup charge be included in the time. If you're doing 300 pieces, then the setup charge doesn't become that much, because now you can amortize that $30 over 300 pieces, or $60, or however you're accounting for your setup time.
I wanted to really quickly too, when we pop back to Mike's screen here, I just wanted to point out Not only is the timer there breaking down the timing of the job by color, so it's telling you how long approximately the section that's all black is going to take to do and the red section is going to do. But if Mike were to line up 10 of those, maple leafs, one next to the other, it would also be able to update the time in real time. So if someone says, I need 10 of these, it'll give you a time frame for how long that's going to take. If somebody says, I need 100 of these, you could conceivably do that as well. Or obviously, just multiply it out kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
and I think this is really, this is where I'm going with this, because I'm going to go back to the point we talked about speed and power and productivity and everything like that, right? So again, if I select this job, you can see that it's 1 minute and 22 seconds. Now let's assume that somebody wants a whole bunch of them. So let's take a look at what this happens if I duplicate this object across.
He's pressing Control D.
Yes, exactly. So I guess I can probably get one more in there, can I? Nope, I can't. So let's get rid of this. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 jobs there. So if I select all these jobs, as Don was saying, and I say update, now what I've got is I've got 4 minutes and 19 seconds. Now, what did I have for the first one? I had 1 minute and 22 seconds. Okay. Now the thing to remember is that if I select this job here, 7 seconds of this job is cutting based on the power and based on the speed that I've got in the database right here at 1. Okay, that speed is always going to be 7 seconds for each one of these jobs, unless I change this where this line goes straight across here, and I'm not having the box here, right? There's the new software, you can actually put a space here if you want to give yourself a bit of a padding here. But the critical thing to remember here is that if I select all these here, now what I've got is I've got 8 pieces. And now I've got it down to the time is what, 30 seconds, right? So if I go to a bigger machine and I push that out to, 40 inches or 36 inches or whatever, that time becomes less because now I'm working fully across the bed of the machine. And so maybe from here to here is full speed.
Sorry, show us again.
Sorry, yeah. So if let's say, for example, that I've got to go a certain distance. Let's say I've got to go 2 inches until I get to full speed. So if I bring out a guide ruler here, and I bring a guide ruler out here, and let's say that it's got to slow down here. Well, this area here is full speed, right? If I'm doing an individual object, you can see that at 2, if I have to wait to get to 2 inches to get to full speed, I'm never going to get to full speed if I'm just doing one of these items, right? Because I have to start slowing down,
at the edge.
At the edge here, right?
Yeah.
So again, now the 5G motor gives me the ability that I can slow the inertia of the speed of the machine down quicker, but I still have to slow down. So I never really achieve full speed. So when you're working left to right, and this is very, very critical for people to understand how important it is to have this software, because you can put so many different scenarios on the bed here and figure the time out, right? Like sometimes let's assume, let's delete these out here. You might have a job, and this happens sometimes where maybe the duplicate, because of maybe you're doing cutting boards and you decide to put 2 cutting boards beside each other, right? And then we say, well, is this going to be any faster? Well, it's 1 minute and 22 seconds to do one. What is if I do both of them? And then all of a sudden now I'm at 3 minutes and 10 seconds. So now I'm almost the same amount of time to do 1 versus 2 because I have this white space here. Mm-hmm. So what I'm doing in job control is I'm actually sort of doing simulations here to see. And you might then say, well, maybe it's better to put them like in a column. I might have black all the way down, and then if I do another one, then if I have this one over here, I might make these blue. So I may do the black first, I may colorize out this way, and then I may have blue over here. So it does all this as one pass, and then it does all this as I'd have to make these blue. And again, in the setup, make my blue as engraving, and then that would be 100 there.
And I just want to show you guys my screen here. So we did a whole webinar with Mike. If you type in Trotec tips and tricks, and you'll find this webinar we did with Josephine. We give like 8 or 9 of these tips on basically how to optimize your laser, just what Mike is talking about. What's the best way to position? How do you do the cuts properly? So check that out. We go pretty in depth.
Really quick too, I should mention, in addition to what Mike is talking about right now, we sort of touched on this briefly, but in the simplest terms, to my mind, that list of jobs on the right side of job control there is also every job, within reason that you've sent over to job control previously. So if you have only, one job that, one customer that wants a single Canadian maple leaf there, but you have another job you have to do that afternoon, you could potentially put multiple jobs for multiple different customers in the same bed, as long as either the settings are the same for the same colors, or you can set them, as Mike said, for different colors for different settings, and try and optimize the movement of the laser head that way as well, to save time or to be able to sort of up your productivity.
Yeah. Mike, can we just engrave one flag just to show people how it looks? Miguel, if you could give Mike either wood or acrylic that you have there. And I'm going to go through a couple of these questions. Sorry, I'm just going to put Mike's stream back on. So Melissa King is asking, is there a price list for your lasers? We certainly have pricing for lasers that we give. Unfortunately, right now, because people around the world, we have Australia, South Africa is watching. Each country has their own pricing for these machines. These machines are manufactured in Austria. So obviously the prices vary obviously quite a lot by which country that you might be located in. Sorry, Mike, just before you go, you got to show us what you just did there. So I was just going to say, Melissa, if you can, if you're in the US or Canada, find your local Trotec office and ask them for pricing. Give them a call. They'll give you pricing on these machines. Mike, sorry, can you show people what you just did?
Yeah, so I'm the way the laser works is I have to be a certain distance away from the material, and this is, I always use the magnifying glass example to people when you used to try to burn a hole in a piece of paper. And again, you'd have to move that glass back and forth until you get a nice small spot size, which generated enough energy that you could get the paper to burn. So what we're doing here is I'm using a 2-inch lens. It's quite easy to take the lens off. I can just loosen this off. The lens comes out. Again, the black means it's 2-inch. I can pop, so if I have to clean or check it to make sure it's all right, it's quick to make the change. It's going to tighten that back up again. You can do there's 3 ways that you can really focus on the laser. You can do an autofocus where I just press the 2 up and down, up.
Sorry,
arrow.
Miguel, can you zoom out so we can see what Mike is doing? Miguel, can you hear us? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so if I press these 2 buttons here, then basically I get what we call an autofocus, or what you can do is a manual focus. And again, I always tell new users, we talked about this before, to do a manual focus, where this just drops right off, and then I'm in focus. Doesn't have to be perfect. You'll also notice in the job control that I do have a Z value here of 1.52. Are you showing the job control software?
Yeah, I just brought it up.
So you got 152 here. So if I drop this down, that number increases. So if I want to come back to focus, I can just go back to 1.52. And again, we have some customers, maybe doing glass jobs, where it's a little bit harder to do an autofocus because maybe the product is got a curvature on it or something like that. So it might be hard to do an autofocus. So you can use a Z value here to do the focus instead of using the autofocus.
So you can tell the machine precisely how to drop the table based on.
Yeah, you can tell I mean, if you get really complex, I've got some customers that they set the height to one height, and then in the in the setup for the job, they move the table to adjust for the thickness of the material, right? So again, you know, the only thing I caution people on is this automatic adjusting. You need to make sure you understand and you know what you're doing, because you know you don't want to, you know, accidentally have the table, you know, hit the material hit the head or something, or the head go back and forth and hit something, and then stall out the machine, and then you got to start your job over and everything like that, right? So again, normally the manual focus is the best way when you first start out. So right now, and again, I'm just guessing. Let's use 0.6. Turn the air assist on. Let's assume that I want to come up a little bit more to focus in the middle of the material. Then I could make this, you know, minus 0.06. So it comes up an extra, basically a 16th.
Sorry, Mike, before you hit OK, just wanted to mention, so this is in inches, but depending on your country, you could change it into the metric
system. Could be millimeters, yeah.
And on the left-hand side, I don't know if Mike mentioned already, but you could save your settings as well. You can group them, you can do a whole bunch of stuff with them. And then we provide, like Trotec, the manufacturer, provides like a settings for materials to start as a starting point. But we always say you got to test your own materials.
Yeah.
And then just hit play. There we go. So, Mike, we'll while this laser is going, we can go through a couple of questions that we had. I'm just going to pull this up. Oh, is it done already?
No.
Oh, no, never mind. Okay, so I also believe that the cost of replacing the tube needs to be taken into consideration when job costing. Is there a standard cost for tubes dependent on machine spec? Mike, sorry, did you hear that?
No, I just Miguel was saying it was engraving on the top of the tape, which I knew. So, but I'm going to show I think we're looking here at the speed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see that I'm not achieving full speed right now, because I never have the ability to go on a full traverse. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mike, the question was, sorry, is there a standard cost for tubes depending on the machine spec?
It depends on the wattage of the laser, depending on what it is. So yeah.
And we have a question. Hey, Stefan Derome from Quebec. Can you show a way to save a job in PJX and the advantage? I'm not sure what that is. Do you know what PJX is, Mike?
Well, PGX would be if I was going to save this physical job. I can't do that until we're finished doing the job, right? So I'm right on the edge here. So
that's how quickly it cuts and engraves. And if you want to pull that out and just show it to Miguel's camera.
Yeah, with the tape on it. But you can see how good quality the edge is, because I'm using the air assist. And there it is with the...
That's our sticker, our label sticker. Yeah.
So now if I turn this around and I take the same job here, and if I just duplicate this, and I'm going to put this one over on the far left here, far right. Now, if I shut this, and then I'll run this job, and I'm not going to hurt anything over there, because the beam's not going to hurt anything, but you'll get a little bit better idea as to, and I've only got one selected, so it's asking me, do you want to do just the one selected or all of them? I want to do all of them. And now you get an ability to see how fast the machine is traversing. Okay.
Miguel, sorry, can you move the camera a little to the left, and so we can see it a little better, and maybe move in? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So that's at full speed.
Yeah. So the thing to remember on that sample that I did was, if you're happy with the depth, then this power and this speed are good. If I needed to get more depth in that engraving, then I'd have to start slowing the speed down, and now I'm not being able to run at the full traversing speed of the physical machine itself. Okay, and again, you can put up some scenarios on here. You know, if I put in a a slower speed, say of 70, that'll give me 30% more burning ability, but it slows my machine down by 30%. The machine will tell us how much time you're losing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, you can leave the scenario on the screen.
Yeah, we're just over an hour. I think we're going to go for another maybe 5-10 minutes because there's a couple of questions I wanted to get through.
Sure, yeah.
But sir, do you know Stefan's question, the way to save a job in PJX? What does that mean?
Save as. So what Stefan's talking about is that you have your jobs over here, but let's assume that I set a job up, and can I stop this job here?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no worries.
We're really just showing people the speed of the setting. Let's say, for example, that let's say I've got a jig set up and I want to go to a certain location, and let's say that's my starting point for that, and I can go F8, and then I can move over to my other location on the table, and I can go F8, and I can move away from that. Now these settings right here are specially done where the laser head is. It's set a start point, so I can take this job and snap it to that start point there. Okay, so let's assume this is a jig. So and I'm going to use this on a regular basis. Well, this location here there is an actual number for that in terms of, it's X and Y position. So if I come here and here, right? So if I select the job here and I go to the top left-hand corner, I'm at 4.91 by 2.71. Well, again, the next time I go to do this job, I might be doing a different logo or something or a different name. I can save this job. I can go save as, and I can call this test. And then what I can do is go save. And then if I close this job down, and I've lost those presets there, those two real red triangles that I created, I can come back here and open those up. And that preset's there. Now, again, I've saved it with the actual jobs. I could save it without the jobs, right? So what I can do is I can delete this, and I can remove this, and then I can save it. Let's call it test 1. And if I close the job down and I reopen the job again, now I can go grab a job and then I can just snap it right to that location.
Mm-hmm. So that'd be, if you were using, say, like a jig or something like that, would be super, super useful to save.
Yeah, so exactly. So again, what Stefan's talking about is that this is very powerful, and this can be very powerful too from the standpoint that you can have job control on another computer, and you could set the job up for your operator, and then you could just, email them the job, or you could save it on a shared folder, and then they could just open up the PGX file, and then basically everything is set up for them, and all they've got to do is just press start. Right. Again, I can pull in different jobs if I want. I can pull, this is a different job here. And again, now I've got two separate jobs on the screen. Right. So again, this is, I've got a lot of trophy guys that do glass blanks. And the problem with glass blanks is that they're notoriously not in the same position. Right. So again, you can move these, you can move the laser head around and find.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly show, even for those that don't know what a jig is, if you type in Trotec jig, and then we show you guys how to create a jig using acrylic right after this ad from LinkedIn. 1 second. So just to show you guys quickly what a jig would look like. So here Anthony's doing a bunch of pens, and so can you guys see that? Sorry. Yeah. So this is what Mike is talking about. So then he could put, like these jobs, he could put different jobs on the corners there. So just wanted to show you. So Mike, I'm just going to go quickly through a few questions that we had from the beginning.
Yep.
We have a shared laser at our makerspace. It seems to act differently each time I use it. Is there a quick way to get the laser to act the same way each time I start? I'm not sure if.
Well, I saw that question, and I guess maybe
maybe you could just talk through the things that the laser always does when you start it up. So needing to home out, needing to have the lid closed.
Again, I don't know exactly what he's like, if he's talking about power and speed or location. Don't forget, Miguel, can you zoom out so I can see the panel?
Yeah, we can see it, Mike.
Can you see the panel? Okay. If you press this button right here, the one with on the 300s, the one with the circle, the machine goes into a suspend mode. And some people, they don't want to turn the machine off because it does have the ability to adjust the Z height. It's got to go rehome itself every time. So if I put in suspend mode, the fans are off, the machine goes in, I can open the lid, I can move this around. So if I want to find a location, I can use a red dot pointer, and you can see on the screen that this is physically moving, right? But the nice thing about this is that if I'm not using it for a couple of hours, I can just leave it like that, right? So I don't have, when I come back and turn the power back on again, then the machine's ready to go. So again, not necessarily do you have to turn the machine off. I don't know if this is what he's asking about. If he's talking, I wondered if maybe he was talking about different power and, where maybe somebody cuts with 3mm and then they come back in a couple of hours and they have to, slow the machine down a bit to cut, the same 3mm. That shouldn't happen. The only thing I can think of on that is that, is the bed exactly level? And again, it's not level and you're cutting in different locations. That could affect the power. Are your optics clean? It's certainly a good thing. It's so easy to check the optics. Why would you not be taking the extra, 10 seconds just to make sure that's cleaned, and also make sure that the steering mirror is cleaned? Because, if I...
Sorry, Miguel, can you show the nozzle a little better? Just move the camera a little to the left. Yeah, thanks.
So I'm just checking the steering mirror to make sure that needs to be cleaned too. Right?
Yeah, and we suggest to always check it before you do a job.
Yeah, make sure it's clean, because anytime there's dirt on there, that's going to affect the the amount of energy that's reflected down onto the actual cutting grid. So again, if that's a setting, that's something that you should be doing periodically, especially if you've got a lot of people using it, because like anything, the person that uses it, as we know from the marketing department,
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for that. I'm just waiting for the comment on the marketing.
Exactly. There you go. So, but in all fairness, I mean, people use the equipment, they turn it off, and then the machine is off, and then they go off, and they don't clean the lens. So it's always something that you should be checking these things. It takes literally a minute to do both checks. So the last thing you want to do is do a job and the lens is really, really dirty, and then you go to do the job and the settings you've used don't allow you to go all the way through the material, and then you pull the material off the bed thinking it's cut through, and it doesn't fall out. Now all of a sudden you gotta start your job up again, because maybe you weren't pushed right up against the top left-hand corner.
And two quick other questions. Recovering from a power failure halfway through a job, is that possible?
No, it is on the big format machines, and I believe that we can do that on the well, actually, I guess it depends, right? If the power goes off to the physical machine, then you're SOL, right? There's really nothing you can do. You could
industry term.
Well, I could do it on a vector line, but I can't do it on a raster line. Now, what you could do is, if I've got this job right here, and this has happened to me before, where you've done the job and you want to go back over again with a different logo, and you've got the position all set up. If you want, you can come up here and you can say add marker to job, so that if I have to change this job, now I've got a marker here that I could bring another job in, and then I could snap to that job. So again, I've done that before. But if you have a colossal power failure, you're not going to be able to come back to this job right here. And if you had a vector job, well, I guess you could, if it stopped right here, you could cut this part of the segment off, and then it'll just basically start right there. So that's really the only way that I know of. Sometimes what happens is if somebody a catastrophic stop would be if you lifted the lid up, right? Because it's like an e-stop. Well, you can, if you do that on the big machines, you can come back to that. You can recover from that, but on the Speedy 300 or the 100 or the 360, you can't recover from that because that's like an emergency stop. You'll also notice on the screen that the job control software is getting, it says the engraving cabinet has been opened. It's telling you that there's an error message there. And that's always a thing to remember. People complain sometimes about the fact that you have to have the computer plugged into the laser. Well, not only is it, that's there for two reasons, because it's parsing the information over to the laser from the computer, but the computer is also capturing information from the laser. So if the lid is opened, it comes back. If we were to have an error on the x-axis, it would throw an error message on the screen, which then comes up and tells you that it's an error, say 132, and then you can call the technicians up, and the technicians then it'll be easier for them to isolate the problem. So
speaking of technicians, how often they're asking, how often will one need to get laser serviced?
Well, most of what you do on the laser machine from a maintenance standpoint is clean the lens and the mirror, and maybe the steering mirror on the far end of your gantry, and then you're just cleaning the dust out inside the machine. I think it depends on how much you use it. I mean, we do have the service technicians now have come up with a PM schedule, and we do offer specials periodically in our area where if we go into a certain city, we'll offer specials to people.
PM is a preventive maintenance.
Preventive maintenance, yeah. Sorry. Yes, so that they can then they'll come in and they'll clean the gear on the motor. They'll make sure that everything is working properly. They'll make sure that the telescope is cleaned up and everything. So I would say, maybe once a year, once every couple of years, depending on how much you're using the machine.
Yeah,
a lot of people will take advantage of that. I'm in the area, for a smaller amount, because now we've already traveled to the city, so we've got some extra time. Let's come on site and let's do a PM, and then they can stop sometimes. And the other thing to remember is that when a technician comes on site, a lot of times he's not only cleaning the machine, but he's also seeing if you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing to the machine. And a lot of times, we have this with customers who have operators, right? The management, the owner's not really seeing what's going on in the back of his shop, because he's got other things he's got to worry about. If the technician comes on and he's all of a sudden going in there and he's seeing that the operator's doing something that's not right for the machine, then he can bring this to the attention of not only the operator, but also to the owner or the head person who's looking after the machine, because that maybe that person wasn't trained properly, or maybe that person isn't being diligent about looking after the machine and everything like that. And again, they can sort of stop some issues that may have with the machine. And we do have preventative maintenance programs.
I just pulled that brochure up for you guys. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Because if you're a company and you're an owner and you've got operators running the machine, they're maybe not, you don't want to rely on them all the time to do the proper things that need to be done with the laser. So it's all, we have people where the technician comes on at a certain amount of time, within a certain amount of designated, set time to fix the machine or to help clean the machine. And they can pinpoint some issues that maybe that the operator is doing some things that shouldn't be done, and he can point this out to the operator and also to management to say, this operator needs further trained.
Yeah, guys, I'm just pulling up the brochure for our new extended warranty, and it says right there, you guys, if you get the extended after year 2, so you have the factory warranty, you can get the factory plus, which gives you travel and labor included with the factory warranty, with two on-site service per year, and the extended gets you 3 on-site service per year. So that's included, and again, that's subject to the location. And again, this is only in Canada, so just wanted to to show you guys that. One, I guess, last question. Sending jobs from different computers to the laser job panel, is that possible, Mike?
Well, that's where you would share out the this directory here.
Sorry, let me just pull your screen up. Go ahead.
Under settings options, you need to share out this directory here in the spool path. So if you had job control on a different computer, then you would share this directory out, and then on the other computer you would make this shared directory available to that computer, right? So that any job you generate then goes into this area, into this directory, and is read by the job control. We do have unit drive software, which is a software that will we have web people who have web applications that create jobs, and that unit drive software is monitoring a certain hard drive or certain folder, and anytime it sees a job go into that folder, it automatically grabs that job and then brings it to the laser machine and puts it in this here automatically. The other option you can do if you're sharing jobs, as we talked about earlier, is just go in and save the job and then send it to the operator.
Yeah.
Right? Because once they've got this job set up, then they can just open it up and then run it. Right?
And hit go, yeah.
And hit go, and then off they go. Right? So again, the nice thing about this setup here is that, you know, if let's say I have a customer that's doing, let's say he's doing stuff for the Maple Leafs and the Canadians, and like all the hockey teams. Well, let's say he gets an order that he needs 5 Canadians and 10 Maple Leafs, and the operator's relatively not trained very well, other than just to run the machine. Well, he can grab this Canadian here, and he can duplicate this 5 times, and then you can go in and grab another one and then bring it in here, and then all of a sudden now you can do the Canadians, right? And then you can do that 10 times, and then you could bring in the Canucks, and you can do that 3 times, right? So you can basically nest inside this job here. So your operator really is only accessing jobs from here or pulling up saved jobs, right? A lot of times this sort of keeps the operator from having to learn programs like Corel Draw, just so that he can go in and make a quick modification, or again, they just, like I said, they may be people that you just want them to press the button and load the appropriate material in there and load the appropriate job. Yeah. That's pretty basic, and that can be done here. So the nice thing about the job control software is that you have a lot of functionality, or you can create minimal functionality. The same way, if you're in job control, if you want, you can go file print, and we have this set up a lot of times, where if you go into the preference setting in job control, you can come here to general, and you can make everybody a basic user. So all the operator has, and this could be great for a makerspace, is that they only have the ability to pick the preset and put in the page size and what resolution, and that's all they have access to, right? They don't have access where they can change things, because as we all know, is that once they go in here, they can make a change to something, and that becomes permanent. If I make this 100 now, right, that's permanent. Well, that screws everybody up, right? And you have people that start playing around and everything like that. And again, we can come in here and I can lock that, set a master password, for the database, and I can set a master password for that material, so that nobody can make changes in that basic setting that's there. And again, if you want, you can export it. And I would suggest that you look at either mine or Josephine's help tutorial that actually goes through that, and helps lock some of that stuff down. And again, that goes, again, it's great for maker spaces where you've got multiple people working on the machine, and you just want to put a 3mm setting in there, or 6mm, and everybody goes with that setting, and nobody's allowed to touch it. Okay.
Awesome. I mean, once we start talking Canadian and Maple Leafs, I think that's our cue to end it. it doesn't get as Canadian as that. And I think Don has a lumberjack. What is that blanket behind?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was going to say slam and salmon.
You're really hurting the stereotype there. I mean, all we're missing is an igloo. Anyways,
I mean, like I got that. Absolutely perfect.
I want everybody to know it's 28 degrees Celsius out there right now. It's a nice warm day. It's been like that all summer. So.
Exactly. Awesome. So we'll honestly, we went like almost an hour and a half, and we got lots of great questions. So let us know in the chat. Even after this video is done, you can rewatch it as many times as you want. Let us know in the chat which review you guys want us to do. You guys want us to do another maybe Speedy series like the Speedy 400? Do you guys want us to do a large format like the SP 2000, or maybe it's Galvos like we have the Speed Marker CL and the regular Speed Mark series like the super fast. Small lasers that we can do as well. So let us know what you guys want us to do next, and we'll probably be back in a month or so to do these kind of reviews. I really want to big thank you to our laser expert, Mike. We couldn't do this without you. And if you're in Ontario, Mike is your guy. You could come see him
or the Maritimes.
Or the Maritimes.
Well, part of the Maritimes.
Fly in and see Mike in Mississauga. It's in our showroom. And again, thanks to Mike. To Don and Miguel for being our co-host and our awesome cameraman. You can catch them every Wednesday. They have our RayJet lasers 1 hour. Oh my God!
Laser challenge.
1 hour laser design challenge by RayJet. So it's our baby laser, and all they do is design for an hour. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next time. Oh, there's Miguel. Bye guys. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Care.